Welcome to the debate. Today, we're focusing on the foundational guidance offered in the material A Path to Spiritual Resilience, Keys to Overcoming Adversity. The guide presents several principles that are meant to help us navigate hardship, but they seem to pull in two different directions.
Right.
And this brings us to our core question. Which path does the material ultimately prioritize for true resilience? Is it, a path of radical acceptance and surrender, or is it one defined by active, continuous self-management? I'm going to argue that the foundation of true strength is surrender and acceptance.
And I come at it from a different angle. While I agree that letting go is an important concept, I believe the material ultimately emphasizes that the path is defined by deliberate, continuous practices. That spiritual resilience is an active construction, not just a passive state you fall into.
What I find so compelling is that the material really treats surrender as the absolute prerequisite. Keys like accept adversity without a fight, and the direct instruction to surrender your ego to find true strength. They define resilience as fundamentally letting go of this need to control everything with your own limited knowledge. The text suggests peace is found only by yielding to what it calls a higher process for growth. If we don't first accept the lesson, we can't really begin the journey.
I see the elegance in that idea, I do. But the guide immediately moves past that and spends a significant amount of time detailing these rigorous active interventions. It suggests that continuous labor is the core mechanism of change. Just take the section on the right inquiry of the heart. This isn't philosophical acceptance. It demands 3 explicit, continuous practices: control negative thoughts, reflect immediately, and, crucially, polish continuously. That means daily, deliberate mental labor. So if surrender were enough, these strenuous, ongoing actions wouldn't be emphasized so heavily, would they?
And I'm just skeptical that we can focus only on that foundational shift when the overwhelming practical instruction is one of constant effort. The inherent contradiction here is critical. So if true spiritual strength comes from surrendering the ego, the part of us striving for mastery, how do we reconcile that with the mandate to actively control our thoughts? Controlling negative feelings like envy, that is a definition of striving for internal mastery. Isn't control negative thoughts an expression of the very ego we're told to give up?
That contradiction, that tension between surrender and control is absolutely central. I agree. But I would frame it differently. The surrender we make is foundational, yes, but it's specifically the surrender of the ego's need for external control, the desire to dictate outcomes or to avoid suffering. The practices that follow, like controlling thoughts and polishing the heart, they're refined actions that flow from that surrendered state. They aren't about external mastery. They're about internal refinement for what the guide calls the ultimate victory of the soul. This victory is inner peace regardless of external turmoil, which requires that active labor you're talking about. The actions are the result of acceptance, not the engine of strength itself.
Okay, but even if we accept that distinction between external and internal control, the sheer effort required still feels primary. Consider the principle to live each day as if it's your last. This key requires an extreme, almost urgent daily focus, and it's described as radically transforming one's perspective in just 3 years. That time frame, 3 years, suggests the deadline for intense, future-oriented striving for a better life. That's not passive acceptance of the present. It's a highly disciplined, long-term construction project. The transformation is achieved through the labor, not simply by yielding.
I think that urgency actually supports the case for acceptance, though. The requirement to live each day as your last is, at its core, a radical acceptance of the finite nature of time. The discipline you speak of, it flows from accepting that limitation. The striving isn't against the flow. It's the focused action that happens once we've accepted the reality of mortality and let go of the illusion that we have endless time. Profound growth begins when we accept challenges as lessons and, fundamentally surrender our attachment to control.
I'm still not convinced the focus is on acceptance over action. The sustained, continuous demands for internal refinement, managing thoughts, reflecting, endlessly polishing the heart, it all suggests that spiritual resilience is an ongoing daily commitment. It's a path of deliberate striving that is never truly complete.
And while that Active practice is necessary. The initial turning point articulated here is the surrender of control, which creates the spiritual ground for that subsequent work to even be meaningful.
So we've examined this profound tension between a foundational acceptance and the continuous action that defines spiritual resilience in this material. We hope this exchange has deepened your understanding of the multiple perspectives inherent in navigating this path.